Hey everybody, I already recorded this video once and it turns out my microphone was not functioning, so let's try it again. I want to talk to you today about using NoodleTools to add annotations to the works cited entry for the research paper proposal assignment. So if you have not read the research paper proposal assignment, please head on over to Blackboard, click into the newest learning module, and then read the entire instruction sheet in its entirety. Once you do that, you'll see that the first part of the proposal is 250 words kind of describing your project. But what I wanted to focus on in this video are the annotated works cited entries that you're going to be creating for the second part of the project. So notice for your bibliography for this project, or in other words, your works cited page for this project, you're going to be including 4 sources. You've got 1 primary source and then at least 3 highly credible secondary sources. So that needs to include a highly credible web source, 1 scholarly or peer-reviewed source, and 1 ebook. And each of the annotations for these sources should reach 100 words. Now keep in mind, when it comes to actually writing those 100 words, I give you some advice later on in the assignment sheet about what exactly to include in those annotations. So what we're doing with these works cited entries is, yes, we're giving the works cited entry for each of those 4 sources that you're discussing, but beyond just that simple works cited entry, we're also adding notes about these sources, describing their intended use in their future project. So for example, one thing you'll discuss in your annotations is the main idea of your source and possibly an evaluation of the rhetoric that the author uses. You might also consider your source's place in the ongoing conversation around your topic. And then finally, you'll describe your source's use value. So in other words, how are you going to use it in your particular research project? Now, if you've read the sample proposals on Blackboard, you've already seen that there are a few different formats you might use for those annotated works cited entries. So here's an example from a student named Kelly. You can see the beginning of her essay is that 250-word proposal about the topic that she wrote about for her research project last semester. On page 3, we see the annotated works cited entries. So notice the important thing here again is that each entry uses a consistent format for the annotation. So at the beginning of each entry, no matter what, we should always see that properly formatted works cited entry in MLA style. And then after that, we will see the annotation that does all those things I mentioned before, that talks about the main idea, that evaluates the rhetoric, that talks about the use value, etc. Notice what Kelly did though. For each of her entries at the beginning, she actually chose to identify the specific type of source that it was. So she lets me know right off the bat, okay, this is my primary source. Notice her next entry follows that exact same format. So we have our MLA style works cited entry here, and then immediately following it, we have a consistently formatted annotation. So we see that this writer chose to identify what type of source it was that she was writing about. She did a stylistic choice of a little vertical line in between the two. And then she follows up with her, hopefully 100-word annotation about that source. However, as you've seen in your empowered textbook and also in the IVCC style book, there are other formats that would be acceptable for this. For example, she uses double spacing, single spacing would be acceptable. What is the most important for your project is that your annotations are consistent with the format that you choose. Now, as I mentioned on the unit overview document, you can use the format given on page 90 of the IVCC style book as your format for your essay. That would work great. However, I did want to give you a little heads up about how to use NoodleTools to add these annotations as well. So you might recall from a previous video that NoodleTools is a citation generator that we have a subscription to through Jacobs Library at IVCC. So in order to access that tool, I'm going to go to ivcc.edu/library. Now remember, you have to start from the library's page to log into NoodleTools, or else it won't recognize you as one of our students. So don't just jump onto the internet and Google NoodleTools to get there. come to the libraries page and log in from there. So this is the home page. I'm going to click research, and then I'm going to click citation help, because that's just what NoodleTools does. It helps us with citations. And then I'm going to go ahead and log into NoodleTools. I already happen to be logged in. You'll probably need to put in your credentials. Now, this is my project page that shows all the different works cited pages I've demonstrated to students so far this semester. For you, you might need to create a new project. So do keep in mind, if you're getting started on your research paper proposal, you'll probably need to click this green new project button up here and add your entries. But just for the sake of making it really easy, I'm going to enter a project that I have already created. So here in front of you, you see a works cited page. Actually, let me go back and let me use a project that I have not entered any annotations in yet. Perfect. Okay. So let's pretend this is a works cited entry that I'm working on for the research paper proposal. I've got an AP News article from a reliable source. I went ahead and already filled in all the boxes and created my works cited entry for it. But now I need to add an annotation. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's a screen that might look familiar to you. This is where I went in and put in all the original information about this particular source. Down at the bottom here is where I need to provide my annotation. So again, remember at the top, it's very common that you might skip some of these boxes, right? For example, there was no editor for this source. So just a quick reminder that if you have empty boxes up there, that's okay. When we reach the bottom of the page, this is where we can enter our annotation. Now, let me give you a piece of advice. I would urge you not to write your annotation in NoodleTools itself, because if there's some kind of a hiccup with your power or your internet or your computer, I don't know that NoodleTools would capture any work that you already created. So I strongly suggest that you type your entry in Microsoft Word or in Google Docs, because those programs, should there be any kind of a little hiccup while you're working, should capture your work, where again, I don't know that NoodleTools would do that. So here's my annotation. Again, just for the sake of ease, we're going to pretend that this is the paragraph that I'm going to be using for my annotation. I studied my source. I considered its use value. I thought about the author. I thought about how I'm going to use it in my essay. I crafted a 100-word annotation that captures all those ideas. And now I'm simply just going to paste this annotation into NoodleTools. Now, one thing that I did notice, often when I paste into NoodleTools, it automatically puts it in bold. I'm not sure why, but it's easy enough to get rid of. All I need to do is highlight everything, click that bold B, just like you would in Word or Docs, and that bolding goes away. Now, again, remember, I'm just using this paragraph here as an example. It's not actually an annotation. It's just to show you how this tool works. One other quick reason I would suggest that you write and edit your work in a word processing program is because those programs also have built-in helpers to help you create the best annotation that you have. So, for example, NoodleTools is not going to tell you if it thinks you have a comma splice or if it thinks you misspelled a word. Microsoft Word will do that. Google Docs will do that. So I would take advantage of those editors tools before you make your way over to NoodleTools. Okay, I wrote an annotation. I'm happy with it. I revised it. I brought it into my NoodleTools. All I need to do now at the top of the page is click Save. So here you can see I have crafted my works cited entry, and I also have an annotation. Now, again, just for the sake of showing you what this looks like, I'm going to really quickly add another fake source here. We'll pretend there's another website that I'm going to add here from EDU, and it was published February 2nd of 2020, and it was written by me. And the title of it was my faculty webpage. Let's just do this for an example. Again, we're imagining this is like a really, highly credible source for this. The title of the website that published it was Illinois Valley Community College, and I'm going to make sure I spell Illinois correctly. The publisher was the same, so I'm not going to repeat it right there. And then again, down here, I will paste in my pretend annotation. So let me go ahead and save this works cited entry. So now on this sample project page, I have 2 works cited entries. And of course, you'd have different annotations for your actual entries. This is just an example. But let's talk about one final step here, which is how to actually get this thing into your research paper proposal. So one option would be to copy and paste it. I don't recommend doing that because you inevitably end up dragging a bunch of code over with you that you can't see, and it makes everything really scrambly. You would also then have to be really particular about all the formatting aspects and making sure that they are correct and that they are consistent. So instead of creating all that work for yourself by copying and pasting, I'm going to strongly urge you instead to click this little printer button up here that you see at the top and choose export to Word or export to Google Docs. So go ahead and export all of your sources. You should see once my Works Cited page opens up here we are, that it has taken care of all of the tricky elements of the Works Cited page for me. So it will alphabetize your sources for you if they're not already appearing that way in NoodleTools. You'll also notice that these entries are consistent. So they both use the exact same format, which again is one thing I will be looking for on the research paper assignment and in the research paper proposal, I should say. So once I have this, I could simply copy and paste, the first part of my proposal above. I can work with it much more easily from this view in Word than I can from NoodleTools. So that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to show you that function in NoodleTools. I hope it's useful for you as you complete your research paper project proposal. And if you have any questions about it, you can contact me or one of the librarians at Jacobs Library, and we'll be happy to talk you through it. So thanks and have a great day.